Hey everybody, how you doing? On Facebook, my friend John Jones wrote something that I saw, and I looked at it. I thought, why is that just not jibe with me? Why do I disagree with that take? And why is it, worth responding to, right? All of that. And you would say, why am I looking this way and then not that way? As I'm speaking to you, I'm also adjusting my video so that the monetization button is pushed and so that it is appropriately put on social media, right? So that's why. So I'm doing that and adjusting, and see now you hear me because I just saw my YouTube page. Now I'm seeing another video I didn't ask for by another channel. I don't know why YouTube allows that. At any rate, let me adjust this so I can then put this on Facebook and on Twitter and other places. And yeah, I should have done this before I set it up, but I was in too much of a hurry to get my say in. And, make some money at the same time, right? So, because I have something to say, just like you. And I would prefer to do it this way rather than writing it on Mark Zuckerberg's platform. I have my own platform, and this is my YouTube channel. Yes, I own it, So at any rate, John Jones put out something that I'll just basically say it like this. Today's problems are not one of race, they're one of class. And look, I predicted we would be in this place when I wrote as a columnist for the Clarion in Oakland Hills. If you follow my columns, then you remember I said that the Oakland of the future would be, instead of majority black, it would be such that no one race or ethnicity was dominant. And that is where Oakland is today. I was right. And I said that that was going to happen after we got rid of the institutional investor racism that plagued us. In other words, white people weren't spending money, who had this money to spend in Oakland, to build anything. But once that stopped being a problem, we would get people coming into Oakland and the population mix would stabilize. And that's what's happened. And I said then that the challenge would be to maintain the soul of Oakland, which, has largely been a creation of how African Americans have lived in Oakland during the rise of the second, technically the third industrial revolution, okay? And that's a fact. Black Oakland became Black Oakland when we migrated from the South to work in Oakland in shipbuilding primarily. And we were able to also get jobs with Kaiser in healthcare, because healthcare built by Henry J. Kaiser was designed to help the shipbuilding effort, which in turn was designed to help the war effort, World War II, all right? So all of that built the population of Oakland as it is developed through to today, but really through to the 2000s, because when Jerry Brown became mayor in 1999, technically 98, he had something called the 10K plan. And I believe the 10K plan was an idea based on Jerry's own racism. And I'll say exactly what I mean. Jerry Brown ran in part on the idea, and he said this, that he was going to attack what he perceived as the black power system, which was laughable to anybody who actually really knew Oakland, because Oakland is not quintessentially a black town. Oakland is really a mixed town where there are a lot of white folks who love black folks, a lot of black folks who love white folks, and Asian folks who love black folks, and Asian folks who love white folks, and Jewish folks who love, black folks, and black folks who are Jewish. And all right, okay, we're all a wonderful stew of 126, I believe, at highest count, languages spoken, okay, in our city. And what really brought us together, what really made Oakland really, really fun, was the fact that Oakland was cheap to live in. And so you could have someone who is a great artist, a great drummer, a great musician, a great actor, a great playwright, you can have somebody who applied their trade in those areas live affordably in Oakland. That's what made Oakland work. And get to know the industrialists who thought Oakland was cool, who grew up in Oakland, or who went to schools in Oakland, be it Oakland High or Skyline or something like that, and just got lucky, right? And some of those people got lucky weren't white. Some of them were black, some of them were Asian, some of them were Latino, okay? That's Oakland. But again, low rents created Oakland's wonderful culture. High rents, John, are destroying it, okay? High rents have destroyed it, destroyed it. This is what John wrote. John wrote 37 minutes ago, "It is deeply alarming to me that folks still are not understanding that there is a real and growing resentment against what it means to be progressive in Oakland." In Oakland, he continues, specifically, this energy grew in 2020 as a result of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. I tried to warn folks, John writes, that to be mindful of the fickleness of human nature. I warned folks about the difference between a white ally, John says, and a comrade as a result of the police killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. A few short months later, a lot of those same white folks, John says, began to call black people animals as a result of the attacks on the Asian community. Likewise, I also warned, he says, this is John saying this, that the regressive policies from the crack era was not the result of racist white people policies, but rather black and brown folks and clergy leaders. Fast forward today, a huge number of black people, John writes, as well as others, are referring to Oakland and black people specifically, John writes, with the same negative energy from the 90s that resulted with three strikes and so on. Then John says there are other contributing factors, yet it is important to start here as there are clear political electoral consequences that come from with failing to take heed. He says 5 years ago he warned us, and all 5 years from now in November 2030 he will revisit the point. He prays fervently that more folks with a greater sense of urgency as the future is literally at stake. First of all, John, I disagree that it was white folks who turned on us because of human nature. What happened again was high housing costs in Oakland during the pandemic. I remind you that George Floyd brought the horror of racism to people and forced us to say, okay, if you're Christian, do something about it. All right, and we did. And look at how America had changed. Prior to George Floyd's murder, you didn't see a lot of interracial couples on television, if any. They were rare. Then, like that, overnight, common to see someone, white woman, black man, wife, husband, Asian man, white woman, black woman, white husband, black woman, Asian husband, Asian wife, black man, all kinds of combinations today. In other words, the way America really is. It's as if the advertising community made a tacit decision that it was going to make America change by showing America what it really is, which is racially and ethnically mixed. Okay? All right? And it was powerful response to a horrifying look. Oakland was affected, all were affected, but then of course, what do we have right as that occurred? The pandemic, John. The pandemic. And the pandemic took, at the time that Oakland was growing economically, took all that away. It took away our abilities to create our economies, and it caused something no one talks about, a gigantic population shift. we not only lost 14,000 people in Oakland, but and that's by estimate. I think it was 20,000. But those folks left for other parts of the United States to be with their parents because they were losing jobs in the Bay Area, in San Francisco and Oakland. You have to remember something. People, for the most part, come from someplace else to live in the Bay Area and in San Francisco and Oakland because it's beautiful, it's touristy, they dreamt of being here, yada, 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 okay? But the pandemic took all of that and put it on its head. Because on top of people losing their jobs, tech jobs, they had people back east, as we say, parents who were getting sick from COVID and needed help. They needed their kids to be back there. That's a dramatic impact. And then we have to remember those who died of COVID, people we don't know about who were homeless, who didn't have the proper ability to get care and didn't have it because we didn't have the facilities to give it to them in ample number because we dithered around with that. All right? So what we have is a problem born of class division because of the high housing costs the situation we allowed to develop after we let Jerry Brown kill redevelopment in 2011. And we all said that, hey, look, that affordable housing budget that Oakland had that was up to $111 million in 2011 that Jerry killed was going to go away, and it did go away. And what happened when it went away? It went away just as we had Oakland's full weight of investment, or an investment that put its full weight into money into Oakland, be realized in expensive buildings. We saw them popping up all over the place. And what we weren't getting, because there was no redevelopment to capture it, were an even higher affordable housing budget. That's why. An even higher affordable housing budget. So our economy became damaged literally overnight because of that dynamic, which started in earnest really in 2013, and then it just got worse. So that by the time the pandemic hit, it was already, really, really bad. And then as the pandemic waned, we didn't spend any money. We never used redevelopment. Jerry killed redevelopment and we never got it back. We never used it. Tax increment financing, we still haven't used it. John, do you realize, John, that we use tax increment financing to pay part of the salaries of a number of Oakland employees? If we had used tax increment financing, if Jerry had not killed redevelopment, wouldn't be talking about a large deficit today. Because what people don't understand, because over that time something else happened, we had gigantic brain drain of people. Some of them died, like Ezra Rapport. Others left because of the pandemic and other reasons, or they just retired, okay? But we lost that institutional memory. People who, like Dan Lindheim was one of them. He was only there for 4 years, but he remembers, he's over at the Goldman School in Berkeley, but he remembers when, because he talked about it for a news organization. I think it was KPI, no, it was the Mercury News, but he talked about how Oakland and he benefited from tax increment financing. This is when redevelopment was threatening to be killed. And saying, hey, look, we used it to pay salaries. Okay? It's right there in black and white. Today, we don't have people in power who know that. We have a city administrator who has no history or no knowledge about that. And most of the people that work with him don't either. Betsy Lake, assistant city administrator, she wasn't there. And she didn't know about that sort of thing at all. And yet, she's called the shots for a lot of our redevelopment direction. Bad. And is the main reason why Howard Terminal was never finished, and its subsidy program was never finished in a timely fashion, 2021. causing the A's to say, you know what, this isn't happening. Major League Baseball said, get up out of there. And so they did. It wasn't John Fisher's fault. No. It was Oakland government's fault, John. Okay? And so while all this is happening, crime is developing because there's no other way for the people at the low end to make money, because the jobs that they enjoyed, the businesses were closed because of the pandemic. And because we did nothing. We didn't use AB 464 Mullen, tax increment financing, which would allow you to use tax increment revenue to help businesses, small businesses, recover from the pandemic. Oakland had no pandemic recovery program of its own. Libby was willing to rely on what the federal government was doing, and that's it. What did she do? She had a task force of people that were supposed to produce a plan to be ready to use when the pandemic was over, whenever that was. And I wrote then, and I told my god sister that was the wrong path. The right path was to subsidize businesses from the start during the pandemic so that they could stay open, so they could add air cleaning devices in the restaurants so that people could come in and eat if they wanted to, when they have a mask, but they had some assurance that the air around them was being constantly filtered. Hey, why not? Do you realize how many restaurateurs would have been able to save their businesses with just that, and with some gap financing to go with it? We could have done that. We could still do it. Okay, John? Those are the reasons why we're having the problems we're having. And then we had other people from around California, United States say, hey, you know what? We can pull a fast one on Oakland and make it look like there's a lot of crime by, making deals with all these other criminals who would then go and, smash and grab and do all this other stuff. And guess what? They don't not only not come from Oakland, they're coming from outside to do the dirty work in Oakland. Tourism crime is a term. Okay? The only reason it looked like black folks in Oakland were going after Asians is because the news media painted it that way, because the mainstream news media was too stupid to go and do investigative reporting and tell the truth. It just showed what people would see on the ground, and you'd have somebody on Twitter, you didn't know who they were, fanning the flames of this racism, which wasn't real, John. In other words, we were manipulated, okay? There are people who believed, and they've believed this for a while now, that Oakland could be used as some sort of device to show the ills of democratic politics, to show the divisions, but they would make it up. Remember the hangman's noose in Lake Merritt? Okay, that was faked. All right, that was faked. Remember how nobody found the solution to it? I blogged about it. I say, you know what? Why is this happening at a time? It was a very specific time when it happened, regarding our own political situation. It was obvious that they were trying to politically manipulate us. It was during Donald Trump's presidency, when he was running for president the first time in 2016. All right? And then it came back again in 2020, although less so. All of a sudden, during the presidential runs, we suddenly had these racist incidents. Ooh, okay? And then people say, oh, you're tied up in conspiracy theories. Well, guess what? The internet allows you to engineer conspiracies. Newsflash. Okay. So now here we are talking about a budget, but instead of using tax increment financing to pay Oakland employees, what would he do? He wants to raise the parcel tax. Oh boy. You hear that noise? That's another few thousand people leaving Oakland, taking their tax money with them. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. The Vlog Report with Zenny62, and bookmark ZennyReport.com and OaklandNewsOnline.com. We'll see you.